Hello guys and welcome back to TierSpec TV. As might be suggested by the copious amounts of coffee that Nissa is drinking, he has been up all night preparing the Disco 2 for its heart transplant, by which I mean engine transplant, with the one that's right here off to the side. So the plan today is to get this one out.
Yes.
And do you want to tell the people what you've been up to and what's going to happen?
Yeah, I kind of started the open heart transplant last night, went through the night, didn't go well, so I left, came back this morning, it's dead, but we got new hearts. We will undie him. We make him alive again. I'm tired. But plan for today is getting this lump out, getting the new lump in. We need to take, I think, the radiator, intercooler, and condenser off, take the turbo manifold, and the top cover here, and hopefully that should make enough so we can pull it out with the JCB without destroying too much. And then we're going to swap those parts over on the new engine and then lower the new engine in here. And we've got about 5 hours to do that, I think. Should be enough.
5 hours, 5 minutes.
Yeah,
what difference does it make?
Just 5 hour adventure. All fine.
5 minutes of footage coming up.
So yeah, that's the plan. I got most of it, or some of it, taken off last night, so I'll just start off where I left and continue there, getting it done, ready to remove. With the power of coffee. More coffee. I need all of it. So here we got the new heart going in it. I've got my punchy stick here. Block completely stripped in exterior wise. Repainted it with a wire brush first, and it is heat-proof paint-ish. So I took it over to the heat cannon and completely made it harden up. So it looks pretty damn nice with the bit of a glow to it as well, black and glow. Fitted all the parts here. I just want to open up to the oil cooler to have a look, see how that looks. It looks like new. Really isn't anything with it. Took the power steering pump and the water pump bracket here off. Replaced the water pump with a German-made because I just saw a guy on YouTube, not on YouTube, on Facebook posting that he put a Brit-part water pump in and it filled like after 500 miles. So I went and have got German-made one, put that one in instead. They look completely the same. I couldn't tell different wise, but it's probably better to use that one. That got in place, painted the rotating filter top and housing, engine mount as well. Got this mount 2 years ago, I think. Not mount, return pipe, which is AN fittings here and here. It's made by Pioneer 4x4 with the bigger flange, as you can see, very beefy flange, which makes sure that it doesn't bend and start leaking. And it's also easy to take the turbo in and out because you can just unscrew it right here, and then you can take the turbo off. Upgraded head struts from Alisport, ported the heads just to match the gasket, so they're about a millimeter or so bigger, and I have a longer drill bit or Dremel bit here and kind of went in as far as I could and then smoothed out with some sandpaper. So they're all good. Did the same with the intake, just with the sandpaper bit. Replaced the seal on the front, new bolt as well. Even though I said in the last video I wouldn't use a new bolt, I kind of gave in and got the new bolt. So it's like 300 krona, I don't know, it's like 28 pounds or more than that. Very expensive bolt. Put that in, gave it about 3 oogie doogies with a big ratchet gun. It's about 460 Newton meters, just about. And a new main oil seal that we did last time. Painted the sump, put that on, and sealed everything up, so hopefully it shouldn't leak. And also did the fuel pressure regulator. I just took the broken hose off, which is here. Took that guy off, so we're going to steal that from the other one. The same goes with the exhaust manifold. We're going to reuse that because that's already ported. The same goes with the intake. That's also ported from last time I took the engine out, so we'll smack those on there. And with my Turbo Technics turbo majiggy, I got a extended oil feed pipe, which I don't quite get because, as you can see over here, it kind of makes a kink when it sits onto it. So it's way too long compared to what it needs to be. So we're gonna see if the stock one can do the job, because this really doesn't make any sense to me. Very nice quality, but it's not supposed to look like that. So we're just gonna see if the stock one can fit. If it can't, we'll take the rotating oil filter housing off and swap those two out when we do that. And of course we also need a new air compressor pump here, or air conditioning pump, as that got absolutely manhandled somewhere down in Germany. So yeah, so first get that guy out, and then we can start exchanging parts around, and then putting him back in will be the ordeal. So I think I'll start now by taking out the radiator, intercooler, and the condenser in the front, which makes room so we can pull the engine forward and up, so we can clear the disc or the clutch pack on the back of the engine. And also we have to replace that with that one, got new bolts for it, as well as those are stretch bolts and needs to be replaced. So yeah, we'll start doing things. So we just got the intercooler, radiator and condenser out. Next up we'll take off the ACE pump here, which is not on all models, but on my one I still have it. Works real nice. Gonna take that one off, and all the connecting pipes onto the power steering pump as well. And then I think we've got some cooling hoses over here, and we'll see if we can get the turbo, of course also the downpipe and the turbo, we'll take those off. And then I actually think we are ready to try and start pulling. Of course loosen the engine mounts as well, and important. I think it might be the flange here that's been leaking oil everywhere. You see how it's dripped down on the bottom of it. So I think we got everything disconnected on the hot side, or exhaust side. Of course we need the engine mount as well to loosen that, and then we need all the bolts holding the engine and gearbox together, and then we should be able to move a bit forward and then lift it up and out. We've still got the fuel parts over there, but they're quite easy disconnects. And maybe also this one, I can't remember where that one goes to. If that's the heater matrix, we might just undo that one and leave that. But getting there, about half an hour, we should get the JCB and start pulling.
Just where I did the transition, it says like 3 hours later.
Yeah. So I think we got most of the bolts off. I got the last top one here on the left side from where you're looking. Need to get that off, then we'll take the cover off so we can clear the bulkhead up here, and then slowly start and try and pull him out. But I still got a wire on the alternator and probably 1 or 2 wires I've forgotten. I also need to take care of those, but else it is just this one bolt down here. And of course the last guy who had this off, which wasn't me but another mechanic, left the top bolt of the starter off. You can do that, it's just a lot easier to get to when 2 bolts are more than adequate to hold it. And then the top ones are really annoying to get to, they weren't tight at all, and the bottom ones, which are really easy to get to, are just really tight. So I was twisting the whole engine to get them off. But now we just see if we can't get the last bolt off down here. Unfortunately, I think I seized this guy up, so I might just need to unseize him somehow, because I did put a lot of force on him. This will take another one. And then the engine mounts, we'll get those free from the top. I might take the intake off, I don't know just yet. See if I can get to the engine mount here, and then we'll pull it up with the intake off or on it. You shouldn't be allowed to have this kind of extension to get a bolt off on a car.
But that's still shorter than the one we used for the exhaust.
Yeah, it's like 1 length shorter, but this one got 2 flex joints onto it. Go around here. I need the whole map to see where this one's going. I think I got it. Oh, can't feel my arms. Big blood. I swear these small lamps are made for the second you touch them, like they're magnetic, but the second you touch them, they're just supposed to fall off or pointed in a different direction. Yikes. Now, that should be the last of them. Lid off, connect, change there, then ever so slowly lift it out. And we're golden. Let's do the easy engine mount first. Got heaps of excess. It's like you've got 100% of accessibility, and you'd use 90% on this side and use 10% on that side. That's how they need it. See that? Hit it once, points in a different direction. I think this time we're only going to do the top part of the engine mount. See if we can get enough upwards and forwardness to pull it out. But I remember that was a bit of a challenge to get the engine mounts to line up, going in and out of them. I don't know why I tightened those that much. Like somebody's going to steal my engine. Actually, I don't know if we're going to use the JCB or we're going to use the engine manual hydraulic crane. Because last time I took the gearbox out as well, which is why I used the JCB. So I think we can actually just use the engine hoist, which will give us a lot more control. I think we'll try that. But both engine mounts, all the bolts on the bell housing. We only got the wires for the glow plugs, but I'm going to show a little trick. So we're just going to rip those off, hopefully, because we don't need them. And we got one wire, like a multi-plug connector going into the alternator, and then maybe one or two more things I've forgotten about. Other than that, I think we'll bring the crane over and start doing small tugs. See if he will start moving accordingly. Then we'll push the car a bit backwards to gain more room on the concrete. This is mine.
No, mine. Sadly. That was made for that thing.
So the guy was that 500 years ago put those stones in and went, yeah, at one point they'll need an engine crane in that.
And I don't know what an engine is, but they'll need it.
They'll need something to lift everything, like big horses. Let's take the rough cover first. Might have to use a jack underneath the gearbox. We can already see the gearbox and the engine have separated a bit. I might just get a piece of wood. I'm gonna see where these dents come from. The chain pulling onto it. So I'll get a small jack and a piece of wood. So what we're trying to do right now is line up there's a clutch and the input shaft need to connect together, and they're very tight tolerance, so we need to have them completely straight to pull them apart. If they're tiny bit one way, another way, we'll start using a lot of drag to get it out. But it removed, it got out quite nicely on this side, So we definitely got all the bolts out, the same on the other. We just kind of need to wiggle it, should pop off. That's why I supported the gearbox a bit from underneath, just to kind of get that level with the engine here, so it's not crooked in any way. So we're just gonna adjust a bit on this thing. I think we need to move this point further up here to kind of lower the front a bit. We should get him out. Now I'm starting to question life if we got all the bolts out. I'm pretty sure we have, because there's a huge gap here, and the only part is connecting is underneath. So we need to lower it a tiny bit. I think actually we need to get it further to the front. Yeah, that's right. Math. Oh, physics. Something.
Oh, there we go. See the green LOF clutch.
Nice. He's been using quality parts. I hope that crane can lift high enough to get it out, otherwise we have to put it down and then get the JCB to pull it out. He's got all the way up. Please. I think we can just about manage that. Good for him there. Ta-da! Out he goes. I think what's catching onto it is this side. Have a small hole where a stud goes through. And so you try to use leverage here to kind of get it out, but that stud was really stuck there, so we might drill that hole out on the new one just to make it easier. I'll just bend that back in place. But I think we'll get a pallet underneath it, lower it down, take the clutch off first, take the alternator, the intake and the exhaust and swap those over on the new one, put this on the pallet and drive it up into the barn, and we'll pull it out when we start fixing it next time. Or we could actually maybe put it on the engine mount. I think I've installed I think about 5 LOF clutches until now. This will be the 6th. It's a good thing we got all the tools for it, like the alignment tool and the tool as well. Oh, that's heavy. That's nice. I think it's the extreme spec because you can kind of see the metal bits in here as well. It's got many miles on it. Oh, still to go. Then we'll use the LOF locking tab, put that in place, and then we can undo these bolts in here. Take the solid flywheel, so this does not need to be exchanged. You can resurface it if you want to, but this is just one chunk of metal. All the springs and the pedal or the clutch material. So ratchet gun on, undo these, take this off, and then install onto the other one. just need this one off. That's the last bit. And then we got all the parts we need off the engine and put it on the pallet. Drive it somewhere. Forget about it. Take it out in the future when we have a better. Of course, it doesn't fit. Now you can see the flange here, how thin that is compared to the new one. So that's the standard one. And then we go have a look at how thick he is. So this isn't going to bend down, which I think is why we have a lot of oil spillage here and up here on the engine mount. It's been dripping down onto it, spraying it everywhere. We got the engine out. We've taken the exhaust manifold out, the intake manifold, the oil pressure sensor unit where I've got an extra one for in the cabin one. What have we taken off? We took off the generator, alternator. That's about it. So now we're just gonna empty him out of oil, see how that looks. Put him onto this pallet, put him over there, drive him away with the JCB, and of course also take this destroyed lid and put it onto him, and then put the new one, or the old one, from that guy to that guy, just so it doesn't get oil off on here, and maybe also some tape on the exhaust and intake. Oils I'm gonna do, just put the old ones on from that engine. We only got old engines, I don't know what I'm talking about. But we'll get him out of here, so we've got space for the new one to go in. The new old one. Some sludge in here, metal pieces. Isn't that a good sign? So we're now on day 2 of the engine transplant. Just put the exhaust manifold on. Next on will be the flywheel and clutch, and then we'll do the intake and the alternator, and then it should be ready to go. And I had a bit of problem getting the exhaust on because I've got this heat wrap and also the extended studs with the spacers. A bit tricky to get on, but they're on now. I also opted to swap the oil feed line for the one that came with the turbo, just to be sure if warranty or anything like that. So I swapped those around because I had to take the oil rotating filter housing off as well to get to it. But that's now all done, so I'll move to the back part here and put the clutch and flywheel on, and then we'll do the intake and alternator and throw them in. So we got the clutch exhaust on. Next up is doing the glow plug wiring. And as you can see here inside of the car, this is what most TD5 glow plug wiring looks like. It gets very brittle at the plastic here and just sheds off like that. Takes no force. And these wires are very, very old. And I wanted to replace those. So I went on to the internet, and an old forum back from, I don't know, 2005, 2008 said that you can use this glow plug rail from VW Group to actually power your glow plugs in your Defender, because the glow plugs are the same and they fit in nicely into it. This is the old glow plug from this engine, which I replaced. We just checked it and it worked with just the wires on. So that one clicks in place. We're going to take the earth and ground it like the engine does when you screw it in. And then we got 2 wires here where these ones only have 1. So just going to figure out which one it is, and it is the non-colored one. You got one with a red stripe and one with no stripes. So we're going to take the one with no stripes, connect it onto the battery, and behold, it is lighting up, which is very nice. And then if we take this one off, cables, take this hot one out. Then I heated up one of the sides here a tiny bit. You can just kind of see the color difference, a tiny bit wobbly. I heated it up so I can stretch it a bit. But other than that, you slide it in between the oil dipstick tube, and look at that. All the spacing is now perfect for it. So there you go. And this one cost close to nothing compared to the other thing. It even says made in Germany, which is pretty nice. So we're going to install this, and then after we check and make sure everything wires works, we're going to chop the red wire here off and blind that off. So we're only running this wire onto it. It's also a very big and thick gauge wire. So it should easily handle these 4, or it's made to handle those. So this one goes on, take this bolt out, slide the intake manifold, put that on, do the fuel lines, and do the alternator at the end, and we are ready to drop him in. So I just installed the new thermostat down here. There was one original Land Rover part in the closet, so I just took that one. I think we are slowly getting there, ready to put, or try to put the new engine in. I'll just have a look at the wiring over here, if anything looks suspicious or weird, and then also cut off the old glow plug wires here, and sort of route everything where there needs to go once the engine is in. Next, and then we also need to make sure that the spline here, or the shaft, can turn around, because those splines need to line up with the splines in here. And that's going to be the major problem, because both the gearbox and the engine part needs to come together like this. You can't have any sort of angle on it, otherwise it won't go in, and the splines have to be lined up. So one of us has to go underneath, and the other one kind of has to fit it in. And as soon as the splines grab onto the clutch plate, then we can just wiggle it into place. That could take everything between 3 hours and 20 minutes. So we are hoping for somewhere in between there. Should be fine enough. But yeah, I'll have a look at the wiring, and then we'll lift the engine in and see where it goes from there. All right, so engine is ready to be put in. I took all the wires from in here and kind of shoved them away, especially the crank angle sensor needs to be tucked away, otherwise you'll clip that once you put the engine in and marry the two together. And I also did a tiny bit of rust on this pipe running down here. I think it's for the power steering pipe. Just rubbed it down, looked fine, gave it a bit of paint. Plan of action is get the engine over the edge here. As you can see, the car is sitting quite high because there's no weight on it from the engine. So we might put the engine crane, both stand up on the bumper, trying to push it down, and then we can push the engine in. Then we'll slowly get into place. Liam will go underneath and twist the prop shafts to get the input axle of the gearbox turning. It turns about 4 centimeters each side, which should be enough. Otherwise, we'll move the car back and forwards in gear, which should also be turning it enough. And then I'll go here, look like a gorilla. Liam will go down there and try to twist the whole car forwards, and hopefully everything will just smack together within 20 minutes. So see you in 3 hours. So not quite 3 hours later, but close. We got the engine in now. everything lined up. We had a problem with the stud down here not going in, but then once we sort of had that in, we just kind of wiggled it up and down at the same time as we tested this one and pushing it in till we got some of the bolt holes lined up. Put some bolts in, not all the way. You don't want to tighten all the way, just enough to get a hold of it. And again, a lot of twisting and turning, and it kind of went in. So now we just tested it, turning the engine in low range without applying the clutch. The vehicle moves forward. The second Liam push the clutch in, it kind of like moved backwards, and I can spin the engine freely, of course, with the compression. So I'm pretty sure that the clutch is working as it should now. So we're going to remove the engine hoist, put that back over into the workshop. Next big thing will be the starter motor. I got one more bolt left to put up here. Otherwise, it's just and turbo as well. Otherwise than that, it's just the plumbing and wires connecting in and routing those, so it looks good. And of course, we also need the front bit here mounted in. So that'll be the biggest job right now, is the turbo on this bit here. But again, we got loads of space to get to it, so it's just going to be a bit fiddly. But we'll get on with that. Should be done in 2 hours' time. So we got everything in place, or almost. We got all the fuel system done, all the cooling hoses onto the engine. We just need the condenser, the intercooler and the radiator, and of course fill the fluids in here and in the radiator. We got oil in the engine now, so we're going to try and let it bleed the fuel system about 2 or 3 times, self-bleeding, have a look, see if there are any leaks around the area with the cooler. If nothing there, we will crank it over with this wire disabled so the injectors won't fire, and then we'll crank it until we get oil pressure, and then we'll try and start him up and see if we can get some life in him, and just run him for 5 seconds, shut him off again, and then put the rest in, just so we know that if any oil starts dripping out, we need to redo that part. So we'll do that.